An invisible wound is a silent echo of pain, a hidden scar etched deep within the body. It is an unseen bruise, and a quiet ache that lingers in the shadows of the mind. These wounds shape our stories as they whisper from generation to generation. They are the silent battles we fight, the unspoken sorrows we feel, and the unseen challenges we carry within us.
So I'm standing here in the gallery and actually watching the works I did, collaborating with David. And it's almost like I get the mirror of internal process that makes me very emotional. And I look at these works and I think these works are actually fibers. They're fiber art, sculpture, processed work. And the way they were done and what I get from it and what I see is temporariness. I see the temporariness of my own thoughts about existing in the world, knowing all the struggles. And our collaboration started from a struggle, from the illness we all had. And that elevated so much trauma from the past. And I look around me and I can see how I'm carrying within both of my parents with understanding the severe and hard childhood they had and their trauma and had bring it over came to me. So I think this everywhere I look I can sense some trauma and struggle. There's a lot of dialogue within the works. The dialogue can be seen with the text, with the objects, with the combination of the different items. You can see the struggle even in the dresses that are attached to the work. And I also talk inside. Sometimes the text looks like letters falling down, like erased, which there are no words sometimes to the deepness of the trauma. But we try to touch upon it, although I think the work speaks for themselves. I'm trying to talk with my mom and my daughter and my daughters in a couple of works. And I sense that I deliver so much unspoken trauma to my daughters, and I sense that I got the same from my own mom. And I want to say it still today is unspoken, but it's here. I think some of the events, political events that's happening around the world and where I come from, elevated completely. And it saddened me. I feel so sad about that I'm still carrying it. And there's a relationship here that I'm almost trying to talk to my daughter and hear and listen to her unspoken words. And all this whiteness, for me, presents some death, shrouds, and it suddenly makes me sad. Like I'm using all these fabrics, they're so gentle and soft, and then I print on it these animals, either protecting or attacking. And there's the two figures here trying to connect, and I feel like I'm trying to connect to my daughter. And I tell her things. I think, like, I wrote something here and I'm going to read it in Hebrew. I'll try to translate. Ptsi'a, a wound, broken, stepped on. My daughter is the one that absorbed my fears even before she was born. She came to this world inside of herself, like her body wanted to protect herself some more before she's coming out. She was not ready. When her skin touched my skin, I could sense that she comes through struggle, that her birth was even traumatic. And I think we mothers are walking around silently with our secrets and deliver this unspoken mantra, this experience in a bodily silence, of the silence of the body, that only we know how fragile it is. And I think only mothers do know they can't protect their daughters. And I think I sense it from my mom, and even my grandma, Vida, her name's here. It's like silently go through. And the way I contact and connect to David through the trauma he brings, I connect to his grandma or to his mom. I never heard them say their stories, but I imagine, I just imagine. And his story about his dad was abandoned. He was abandoned no matter what. He was saved by being abandoned. And this is one of the themes in one of these works that I connect the most, because I experienced something similar as a child. And I look at this and it's all here. It's all here. Mainly work through my hand, through touch, because it's only the body that carry all these experiences that I can deliver. In this way I can live this kind of process of touching and dipping my works in plaster and water and clay and glue and all kind of stuff, just touch it and manipulate it. This is how I can really express myself and maybe understand what I'm doing just much later.
These two pieces really capture what is a very important aspect of this show for me. What we have here is, this is my grandmother. It was a small passport photograph from a Gestapo file, and we enlarged it and then screen printed it twice. In this case, we added an overlay of the last letter my grandmother wrote to my father. And this piece is called A Letter to Hans, which is the name of my father. And in this case, I wrote a letter, but by hand, using a fountain pen, to my grandmother. And the reason this piece is so important to me is actually written in the piece itself. And this piece ends with the words, "I can feel you, your loving grandson, David." And I think it's very much a piece about trying to reconnect and give presence to my grandmother. And actually, when Dafna and I put these pieces up, I literally cried as we put them up. So I think it captures that essence of making my grandparents present, in this case my grandmother, but also this attempt at communication and to be with her. what we have here, this is the actual deportation letter that my grandfather was forced to sign. It comes from, once again, from the Gestapo file, and we photocopied and then I screen printed it in this format. And then we screen printed it on top of my grandfather. This is my grandfather, and this is once again a passport photo. And the thing here is that the actual parting, which is such a brutal thing, and on the other hand, it's such a bureaucratic thing. And it's that meeting point between these two, which is so complicated to understand. And I think this represents it. And we used this particular type of red color, sort of red-brown blood rust sort of color, to just sort of exemplify, what underpins a document of this type and what type of system would create something like this, the actual horror of a document like this. And if we look at this piece here, this is a much gentler piece. This has one of my poems on it called The Collar. And this is a poem about the struggle to be with, on the one hand, the things that happened to my family, to my father, to my grandparents, and at the same time the need to be free of it, to heal from it. And I think this once again is part of that process of healing that is part of the Invisible Wounds project, and a really important part of what we're trying to show perhaps other people also with very, very difficult experiences. So I think this piece in many ways starts this process because it really represents that parting. And this piece, I think, is at the other side of that process because it's the attempt, it's the recognition of the horror, the honest recognition of the horror, but at the same time, it's trying to look for healing, for something which goes beyond just representing horror, just being with horror.